This is my second year in office, and I do think there's a lot of positive things that have happened, and honestly, a lot of I think the most positive developments have come in the private sector, and specifically if you look at our two major shopping centers, for example, Kent Plaza and Washington Square, where they both have brand new 40,000 square foot grocery stores, and when those stores opened and were renovated, there were also renovations made in each center to their parking areas where landscaping was added. And then in Kent Plaza right now, they're doing additional renovations to make way for the Tractor Supply Company that's going in there. And I would say that in my 25 years in Kent County, I think those shopping centers have really never looked better than they do right now. So I'm not taking any credit for any of that, but I think it's a great development for the community. And I think it really reflects national economic trends more than anything. And when I ran for mayor, I said, you know, we're not, even though we're small and we're kind of isolated out here in the country, we're not immune to national economic trends. And it's been a slow but steady recovery of our economy. And I think we're starting to see and reap some of the benefits from that in the private sector. Other things that are exciting that really are kind of happening outside of the government are, for example, Washington College's new academic center on 213 is going up as we speak, which is really exciting. Sultana Education Foundation has a new education center being built right in the heart of the historic district, which hopefully will bring some vitality to that part of the community. So there's a lot of really neat things happening outside of government. In terms of town council related projects, what I would say is a lot of the sort of the legwork that we started in year one is kind of starting to come to fruition on several fronts. You know, for example, last year we bid out a solar array where we got a phenomenal rate on our electricity, 4.5 cents a kilowatt hour that we'll be paying to get this solar power versus 6.8 cents a kilowatt hour in traditional electricity. And that, you know, we approved the project last year. It finally got built out this year, and we're going to be hooking up to that system any day now. So that's an example. Things like the improvements that we made late last year at Fountain Park, seeing how that's been used and how it's really taken stress off of that park, and we hope to continue that this year by doing the same thing to the sidewalk on Cross Street. You know, having a new website that's been fully operational for a whole year where we can really track the data that users provide when they go on the system, and having technology that we've really never had before to kind of really hone in on who's visiting us, who's visiting our site, what local people are visiting our site, things of that nature. We had our arts and entertainment designation come through from the state of Maryland this year, and we'll be hiring a full-time marketing and economic development officer hopefully within the next couple of weeks. That's something that I think could really be, I don't know if it's a game changer, but it's something that I think has been needed to have someone full-time keeping our website current, working with business owners to promote events in town. And that's really, really exciting, helping property owners understand the tax incentives that the A&E district brings with it. Of course, work at the marina has continued. We've been working a lot with the neighbors to try to make sure that they're on board with everything we need to get the permits that are required by MDE, and in a way that's been kind of frustrating. It's taken a lot longer than I thought it would. We're kind of in negotiations with both neighbors right now to address concerns they aired at a permit hearing. And my hope is that by the end of this calendar year, we'll be on the same page with all of the surrounding property owners so that we can get the permits we need and be shovel ready for what I hope will be a really big fundraising push next year. We have a great lead from the U.S. Department of Agriculture. They've really encouraged us to apply to a couple of their programs that could really bring significant funding to help start making the repairs that are so desperately needed. And I plan to go back to the governor's capital budget again, maybe have a public letter writing campaign and show that there's grassroots support for that initiative. So there's no question that, you know, I was hoping and we would be all done with the design and permitting work in year one. Well, it's taken, we're still working on it. We're here in year two. So sometimes being stuck in the machinations of government can be frustrating, because in my normal job, we're just a very small nonprofit, and you talk to two people that sit across the hall from you and you make a decision and you implement it the next day, and it just doesn't work like that. So that's been a little frustrating. So with the Marina Design, I mean, a complicating factor, and I knew this was going to be complicated going in, was that if you look at the property lines, the town basically owns about 1.5 acres, but right in the heart of the property is a different property line that delineates where the fish whistle sits. And so, I've been saying from the beginning, we really need to raise the level of our bulkheads and the grading behind it to try to address the tidal flooding that we get regularly. Well, that involves hopefully having the fish whistle ownership agree to also raise the grade of their property, which is a significant expense potentially for them. And so from their perspective, they're sitting there saying, hey, this is already a profitable investment for us. Why would we want to do that? So there needs to be a little give and take there. We're talking to them about maybe helping them with a crab deck that they've always wanted to have for a while, which I think would be a great thing for the town. But it's a very complicated situation. I would say the situation is still fluid, but I feel like we're making progress. And I hope to have that resolved by the end of this year, hopefully, so that we can really move forward with that. What we would love to do is maybe run one of the new docks out this winter, but it can only happen if we come to an agreement with all these people. Otherwise, we're just going to keep holding those funds. So it's not like we don't have any money. We have enough to really get this thing kick-started and show people that we're making progress, but we're kind of bogged down right now in sort of the regulatory hurdles and the hurdles with the adjacent property owners. What a lot of people don't understand about the oil spill remediation is that Chestertown is not driving that bus. That is a situation that is being worked out really between the hospital and their consultants and the officials at the Maryland Department of the Environment. And the town has expressed on numerous occasions concerns that we have with the remediation plan. I could probably sit here for an hour discussing our concerns. But at the end of the day, MDE approved the hospital's plan to inject this chemical surfactant, Ivysol, into these wells, which will, in theory, liquefy whatever oil is remaining in the ground, kind of bound up in the soil so that it can be pumped out. And it sounds very simple and straightforward. What we're concerned about is, hey, what if this stuff works too well and it gets beyond the range of the pumps to recover the contaminants that could start migrating downhill pretty quickly, especially if there's a big rain event or something the day after these injections occur? What happens in a doomsday worst case scenario? So, we've kind of begrudgingly accepted the fact that this plan is moving forward despite particularly Bob Sipes' reservations, which then gives me reservations because I'm not an oil control expert. What we've asked Secretary Grumbles at MDE for, hopefully in conjunction with the hospital, is something called a consent order, which would basically lay out very clearly on a legally binding document who is responsible for what with the cleanup, but more importantly for the town, who would be liable financially in the event that our wells become threatened. Where does that money come from? How much? If this is as safe as you say, then why not say we'll pay you X amount in a doomsday scenario that hopefully you'll never have to pay us. I'll just say that working with the college has been very interesting. I'm not even at the end of my second year and I'm already working on my third college president. So I think I've probably sat over one of the more tumultuous times for the college in terms of their presidency. Started with Mitchell Reese, that lasted about 6 months. Had a year of Jay Griswold. He was fantastic to work with. And I believe President Bear is getting inaugurated, I want to say in the next couple of weeks. And they each come with very different personalities and different levels of enthusiasm about different projects. But as you alluded to, the college holds so many cards in the town's future with what they could potentially do with the real estate development they've been discussing at Stepney Manor, with the new boathouse they want to construct, which I think will probably be the first domino to fall in their long list of projects. What they could potentially do to the armory, which I get the sense that they're still a couple years away because there's a lot of fundraising and design work that needs to be done there. But ultimately, just in general terms, I think our relationship in my couple of years has been pretty positive. I think there's a new realization on both sides that we both make each other stronger. When there's a strong college, it benefits the community because their students and parents and faculty patronize our businesses big time. Two projects that I hope will get built out in the next calendar year. One is Gateway Park. That has been kind of controversial, and then the funding Funding has been in our hands for years, but we hit a lot of regulatory hurdles, and we finally got all of those hurdles addressed with with State Highway Administration. We actually have a contract with Bramble, and they're telling us that they hope to start building that park out in early October. So that will bring recreational amenities to an end of town that really doesn't have anything right now. So anything that goes there that our citizens can use and enjoy, I think, will be a big bonus. Another thing that I didn't mention is this year we learned that our grant application to rehabilitate the recreational amenities at Kent County Middle School was approved. So we have a $250,000 grant. We went in actually on partnership with the Kent County Board of Education, the Kent County Commissioners. We hope to really have some nice new amenities at that middle school. And that's kind of a win-win where yes, it's a county-owned and run school system, but it's right in Chestertown, and it's the only middle school now in the whole county. So as soon as we get a nice walking track with exercise stations and new tennis courts and a newly paved and expanded basketball court and a place where the kids can play wall ball and more landscaping, it immediately benefits not just every middle school child in Chestertown, but every kid in the county. Being the mayor of this town is very interesting because it's a weird juxtaposition where the job is salaried as if it's a very paltry part-time commitment. You know, I make $7,500 a year before taxes, and I'm probably net $4,500 for the whole year. And if I were to factor in my hourly wage, I'd probably make less than the minimum wage. So it's very, very challenging. Honestly, it's a grind, and I hate to say this, but the job's not particularly well suited for somebody that needs to have a full-time job to pay their mortgage like I do. And I also have 2 kids that still live under my roof, and here the school year is about to start, soccer season is about to start. I'm gonna have 3 to 5 nights a week where I'm driving my kids to practices. So I end up basically having to be the mayor in my spare time, and what that means is my spare time gets chewed up really, really fast. So I don't mean to, you know, bash the job, but it's definitely a big personal sacrifice for me to be doing this. The thing about Chestertown, it's a small town, but it's got a lot of big issues because we have a lot going on. There's a college that employs hundreds of people. You know, there's a hospital that employs hundreds of people. There's not just a couple businesses, but dozens of businesses, some of which Dixon Valve, they employ hundreds of people, and there's numerous Dixon Valves here in Chestertown. And you know, there's state roads, and there's, you know, a marina and a riverfront and an arts community, and you know, and that doesn't even get into the little stuff like, hey, my pothole wasn't paved for a week, or my storm drain was clogged yesterday. So it really runs the gamut from my cat stuck up a tree to there's 150,000 gallons of oil in the ground. What the hell are you going to do about it? So it's a small town with kind of big city issues that are constantly swirling around, and it's a big challenge. I'm definitely in it for 2 years and change, and after that, I just don't know. I don't know what my energy level and enthusiasm will be like, because it's draining. It's very draining. And can you make this a full-time salary? Have you seen our budget? It's really, really tight. So I don't know that that's realistic, but there's a reason why the previous mayors were either kind of semi-retired, or maybe their spouse was the breadwinner and they kind of made this their job. And you know, I can't do that. That's not the socioeconomic level that I'm in. So my reality is a lot different from other people that have done the job. And you know, we'll see what the future brings, but it is definitely a big challenge.